This is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Sacramento Kings fell to 1-2 on their 6-game road trip with a 123-94 loss to the Nets yesterday in Brooklyn. The Kings trailed by 8 going into the fourth quarter, but the Nets outscored them 30-9 over the final 12 minutes to cruise to a victory. There's no times for the Kings to dwell on that one, though. They're right back at it again tonight in Toronto. Our coverage on Sports 1140 begins with game night at 2:30. Kings Live is at 3:30, and tip-off with the G-Man is set for 4 o'clock. Multiple outlets are reporting that the Rockets have agreed to trade Carmelo Anthony to the Bulls. A deal there is expected to be finalized later today. And speaking of the Rockets, they were blown out by the 76ers yesterday, 121-93. James Harden scored 37 to extend his streak of scoring 30-plus points to 20 games. And in the Martin Luther King Day finale, Klay Thompson tied an NBA record by hitting his first 10 three-pointers. He had 44 points in just 27 minutes as the Warriors cruised to a 130-111 win over the Lakers. It's 7 o'clock. Time to get your tickets for the 7th Annual Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame induction celebration, Saturday, January 26th at Thunder Valley Casino Resort. Go to sacsportshof.com.
Seven o'clock on the dot here, hour number 2 of the drive. I'm Damian Barling, along with the best there is, the best there was, and the best that there ever will be. Jason Herbert Walker Ross, happy to be joined with Kyle Madsen here as Carmichael Davis on vacation for the rest of the week. He will be back with you on Monday. Jason and I will be back with Chris and Cody at our regular time slot at noon, also on Monday. Until then, we'll be with you each and every single morning here on the KHDK app, here on Sports 1140 AM, and on the live stream at KHDK.com. A couple of people have pointed out you and I are nicely color coordinated today. Definitely planned this. We texted each other last night about what to wear. We're so happy wherever you're watching or listening from. We're so happy that you are here with us. We posted a Facebook question, kind of something that we brought over from the lowdown. If you're not familiar with what we do 12 to 3, if many of you are at work, don't get a chance to listen, no problem. We're bringing many of the different elements that we do throughout the day over, including a question that we post each and every single day over on the Lowdown Facebook page. This one, was it good or bad? Was it a good or bad weekend for the NFL? We'll get to some of your responses here, Jason, in just a minute. I want to go back to something Kyle was mentioning there during the update. Carmelo Anthony has been traded to the Chicago Bulls, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Again, according to Woj, Carmelo Anthony will ultimately be waived by Chicago and will be a free agent again. So for those keeping track, we have the Denver Nuggets, the New York Knicks, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Atlanta Hawks, the Houston Rockets, the Chicago Bulls, and a team to be named later. That is a Hall of Famer's basketball career right now. I was actually annoyed when I saw the trade to Chicago. I assumed they were going to waive him, but I thought Woj would have reported that right away. It took him about 30 minutes before that little nugget came out. But I'm looking at Houston like, this is so disrespectful. Like, you signed this dude and didn't even give him an opportunity to do anything for your team or your roster before you benched him and set him off into exile. And now you're trading him to one of the most dysfunctional units in the entire NFL, or in the entire NBA, excuse me. But to see that the Bulls are going to release him, I think save like $2 million for the Rockets, $2.6 million for the Rockets. But Melo's going to be a free agent. Now the question is, where will he land? Where does he fit?
Yeah, and I thought the same thing you did, not necessarily in the disrespect part, but in that gap from Woj tweets, first announcing it, then you're right, it was about a half hour when he said he won't play a second for the Bulls, they'll waive him, was, well, there's the volume shooter. Like, he's going to get his shots in Chicago. They'll just let him do what he wants to do, and that's, I guess, the home that he'll have.
Who's that going to be good for?
Nobody, but they're not going anywhere this season, and I thought, boy, it didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, and then now the second part, so forget that thought because it's not a thing anymore. Where? And there's been some talk about L.A., the Lakers. There's always been talk about that, playing with LeBron. I don't know if that makes the most sense either. I personally think he can still play, but I don't know what that means, like in a sense of, I think people totally rip him apart. I don't think he's as bad as people suggest, but he also needs to do a much better job of adapting to not being the guy. And you're still a good player, but you're not the guy.
He didn't even get that opportunity in Houston.
No.
Like, so much is made of his last game, and I can't remember what he shot, but it was something really bad. It was just
like a 1 for 10 or
something like that. And given that we saw James Harden go 1 for 16 from 3 on that same team, I think we should all calm down about that particular outing. But the game before, he went for like 30-something.
His best as a Rocket.
Second to last game with the Rockets. And he only played, what was it, like 10, 11 or something? He scored 30-some-odd points.
Right, which is why, to me, again, the internal there must have been something said, done, because if they were that comfortable to just say he's no longer part of what we're doing, they're hanging on to him because they think he's an asset. Now they at least move some space to get. I mean, they're bringing in Fareed.
Yeah,
I mean, or they did.
Someone wasn't in on this move from the beginning.
Yeah.
In Houston, and I think that's clear. Someone wasn't in on it because I refuse to believe. I've had some very wonderful interactions with Mike D'Antoni, and I don't believe he's a spiteful turd. Mm-hmm. But on the outside, this looks like a spiteful turd move.
Yeah.
But I don't. That's just not D'Antoni. Like, I don't think that's him.
And Carmelo's probably thinking this was the perfect time for me to play as a Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden, you can rest for a little bit. I'll do your role.
Yeah,
I'll take 20 shots. I mean, and he can score. I mean, he still has that ability.
Or Harden, you could be the point guard.
Right. And I'll help you out.
Why Chris is out.
Why it didn't connect there. I don't think we
they
never
didn't
heard the
give
full
it a
story.
chance.
Right. But they were that comfortable to move on from him.
I think Oklahoma City's lack of success last year and Carmelo's inability to kind of adapt in Oklahoma City, I think, played a role for sure. But I'm with you. I don't think the Rockets were committed to this to begin with. Then they start slow, and they go, rather than looking at, we lost Trevor Ariza, we lost all these wing players who allowed us to do this thing. Oh, it's Carmelo.
Let's listen.
It must be Carmelo.
Let's do what Kyle Mattson just admitted that he does. Let's listen to Twitter.
Yeah.
Let's listen to Twitter and blame it on Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, right. That's really I can absolutely see a scenario where, oh my gosh, their GM Daryl Morey, where Chris Paul approached Daryl Morey and said, "Hey, look, we can make this work. Carmelo's my guy.
Yep.
We'll make this work. Trust me, we'll get him in here." Didn't work for the first, like you said, dozen games or whatever, and Morey pulled the plug.
Yep.
Yeah. Now where?
Yeah.
Also, rough couple days for the Rockets, too, because they had to terminate James Nunnally's contract, his 10-day contract. He's playing pretty well for them.
Yeah.
But they had to terminate his 10-day contract so they could get Kenneth Fareed in.
Because they couldn't, the trade for Carmelo couldn't go through yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was just, it all happened on the wrong day.
Really tough.
Yeah, it all happened on the wrong day for them. Can I throw a team at you for Carmelo?
Sure.
You tell me what you think. Miami.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And why them?
Fix that. Well, I think they're 22 and 23. He'll play a lot. He'll be with Dwayne Wade in Dwayne Wade's last season. I think pairing him, the buddy system. Mm-hmm. I think pairing Carmelo with
Buddy Hield,
someone that he loved. Take it back. Take it back.
No, take backs.
Because someone out there is going to think you're serious, and they're going to say,
kidding.
Kyle Mattson said. And remember,
no, you called it the buddy system.
I called it the buddy system. You called it the buddy Hield system. Remember, Dave tweeted a smiley face last night. Now you're going to get all the people out there thinking that, Dave's smiley face means Carmelo.
No, there's no Carmelo Sacramento connection. I was making a joke.
Do you know
Keep
that
going.
for a fact that there's no Carmelo?
I know it for a 99.99%.
Okay.
So you're saying there's a chance.
The buddy system, as in his buddy,
right,
Dwayne Wade, or his buddy, as you noted just a moment ago, LeBron James. Mm-hmm. I always believed and still believe to this day the perfect fit for Carmelo Anthony was Chris Paul. But they never got an opportunity to make anything out of that. Chris has been in and out of the lineup, mostly out of the lineup, wearing some fantastic suits on the sideline for virtually the entire season. And Carmelo Anthony was exiled out of Houston 10, 11, 12 games in.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that there are some good teams that maybe could use just one other little boost, and I don't know if they're going to do it, where his fit might be almost like the Chicago one, where it's, hey, we're terrible, come in here, maybe sell a few tickets. It's still a name. I know that sounds crazy, but just think about when it's how it sounded that the Kings signed Vince Carter. Mm-hmm. I mean, he wasn't the same. The Kings have Vince Carter? That just sounded great. I don't know how many tickets that sold, but if it's Carmelo Anthony.
I think it sold a lot,
yeah,
to answer that question. But Carmelo's not universally loved. Vince is universally loved and respected across the league by fans, media, players. I don't know that Carmelo necessarily is.
Yeah, but there's always an excitement. There really is when you add somebody, and it's different. And then if that said player comes in and does well, I mean, for him to do well, he has to get shots. And if he does that, he'll score. But what's that value he's adding to a team?
I got one more for you, but first, Kyle Madsen.
Well, and that's what Jason just said there is I think there was a proven track record of, hey, Vince Carter is a valuable piece. He might not go get you 25 a night, but he's going to help your young guys, which is what the Kings needed. And plus, he's Vince freaking Carter. He's an icon.
Well, and to use the Kings as an example, is anybody going, you know what De'Aaron Fox needs? Carmelo Anthony.
I think zero people. Maybe Carmelo Anthony is saying
maybe.
that.
You know who I could really help? That kid in Sacramento. Okay, one more team for you. Just it's another Eastern Conference team. I think Miami is the best fit. Best opportunity to win 12, 16 minutes per game.
Okay.
Philly.
Is he,
12 to 16 minutes per game, perhaps 16 to 18 minutes per game, but Philadelphia.
It's back to that. Can he adapt to that? Can he do that? Is he willing to do that? It's got
Ben Simmons is a skilled enough point guard, I think, Ben Simmons very obviously is a skilled enough point guard to make to fit into that Chris Paul category. Maybe the relationship isn't there. I don't know what the relationship between those two is, being Ben Simmons and Carmelo Anthony, but I think there's something there. There could be something there.
Yeah.
Either that or Miami.
Any chance that the only other teams I was kind of thinking of is teams that are on the bubble in the West, like besides the Lakers, like Minnesota?
No.
Who was the other team? New Orleans?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Could Portland use him?
And that's a team that's talked about him before.
Portland needs something bigger. To make a push, like a legitimate.
Yeah, to not get swept by the Pelicans in the first round.
And it wouldn't
they need Anthony Davis for that.
But there wouldn't be a cost, like the same kind of cost that it would have been maybe a year or two ago to get Carmelo. Now you're getting him on the cheap.
Okay. Was it good? Was it a good or bad weekend for the NFL? We'll talk about that. We asked you that on Facebook. And a couple of running backs page. There's a curious month for Todd Gurley. We'll talk about that. Plus, your opportunity to qualify for the Big Game Dream Party presented by Mel Rapton Honda. We'll give you all of those details next here on The Drive. Completely forgot what I was going to say here. Just completely forgot.
Welcome back.
You are listening live. It's Damien and Jason in here for Carmichael Dave, who will be back with you on Monday. Or you could just follow him on social media because he never goes away there.
Nope.
At Carmichael Dave. You could follow all of us. That's at Kyle Madsen on Twitter, at Jason Ross 1140 across all social media platforms, as Jason Ross has recently taken Instagram by storm. You can also follow our newest edition at Cody Baylor. That's Cody with an I across social media platforms, and at Damien Barling. That's me across all social media platforms. We asked you on Facebook, was it a good or a bad weekend for the NFL? We'll get to your responses here in just a minute. Jason, what do you think? Good or bad weekend for the NFL?
I'm going to go with good. But yeah, I'll stick with good because I think there's some concern about, obviously, many plays over the two games that could have influenced the outcome. But you hope it gets to some sort of further resolution. But what we're watching for is the drama, is the entertainment. That was in play. I mean, that was there. So I'm going to go with good.
I think it was a bad weekend. I think it was a bad weekend because, yes, we got the drama of two overtime games. I think it was a bad weekend because I believe there's a certain – I don't know what the percentage is, so I'm not going to throw out a fake percentage. I don't think a lot of people wanted to see outside of the Northeast, which, remember, ESPN is located in the Northeast. But outside of the Northeast, I don't think a lot of people wanted to see the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. I think the old versus new storyline isn't nearly as sexy and as exciting as the two young studs. Andy Reid's, next opportunity to Super Bowl, his first one, and, however many years it's been since that last time he was in Philadelphia. Patrick Mahomes versus Jared Goff. The young offensive genius Sean McVay versus the original offensive genius Andy Reid. I feel like there's so many you're going to hear about the age gap. And we've got all of these numbers here for you in terms of, it's Tom Brady, Jared Goff, largest age gap of starting quarterbacks in Super Bowl history. It's 17 years and 72 days. The next closest was when the Denver Broncos played the Carolina Panthers, and it was Peyton Manning and Cam Newton. That was 13 years, 48 days, a full 4 years difference. That's going to be the story all week long, the next 2 weeks long. But to look at the phantom hand to the face or the illegal hitting of the helmet on Tom Brady, to look at the just horrible missed pass interference, helmet-to-helmet play in the New Orleans Los Angeles game. And it's not – they missed a ton of calls. They missed the face mask on Jared Goff, I think, in the drive before that. Like the officials, you can point to specific plays and goes, okay, maybe that had a direct outcome on the game. Maybe that had a direct outcome on the game. The overtime rules, maybe that had a direct outcome or direct impact, a direct impact on the outcome of the game. But as a whole, I just think it was all bad because you can point to 10 plays versus the Rams, 10 plays versus the Saints where it goes, and then you want to believe, well, it all just evened out in the end. I mean, that's pretty hard to believe. And then I think the phantom face to the helmet or hand to the helmet or illegal touching of the helmet, whatever the freaking call is in the AFC Championship game, was just bad. Well,
the two things I don't want to say I found comical. That's not the right way. I found frustrating because when you do go to social media after games like this, the most commented thing on was officiating and the overtime rules. Well, we watch every week. We've been talking about how much garbage the overtime rules have been, and then officiating, there's calls every week. I mean, it wasn't unique to last weekend, but more eyeballs were on it. Now there's more invested, maybe bets, maybe passion, and this is my team, this is your team, that kind of thing. Those have all been in place.
Microcosm of the season.
Yeah, it's all been there. I mean, there's mistakes every week with officiating. And the overtime rules, I think, are ridiculous. And now people, they got to change them. Well, they needed to before.
Yeah, I think in the short term it was bad for the NFL because we're sitting here talking about we had 2 overtime games on Championship Sunday for the first time ever. And all we're sitting here talking about is how bad the officiating was and how bad the overtime rules stink. And I don't think that's great for the NFL. But in the long term, I think we're going to look back on this 10, 15 years from now and go, man, you remember those 2 overtime games? That was insane.
Yeah, it'll go away.
Right. Nobody's going to go, oh, but there was Saints fans will. Let me not say nobody.
Sure.
But I think the overall discussion will be how incredible those games were.
There was a fun discussion yesterday that says anyone had a worse consecutive years than the New Orleans Saints did.
Which I think is where we all need to be careful. And it's so hard once you get removed from these games, kind of like Kyle said years from now, oh, those were great games. Well, now when we start using the terms, we always do this about legacies, right? And then let's say that was Andy Reid, oh, you can't win the big game. Well, do you remember why they lost? Or, oh, let's say Breeze had never won a Super Bowl, and the last 2 years happened. He could never win the big game. Well, okay, come on now.
I can't remember Andy Reid's 4 conference title games with the Eagles.
Me neither.
I don't remember. I don't remember anything about him.
How are people feeling about hiring Sean McVay's everybody he's ever communicated with as a head coach? Had they lost?
Right.
Yeah,
because there was an opportunity for them to get blown out.
I thought Dallas was going to beat him.
Yeah.
And I think that was a question that we posed in our Friday mailbag heading into the divisional round where it was the Cowboys and the Rams. I thought the Cowboys were going to beat them. I thought the Cowboys had a game. The game plan was there. It's just the Rams executed it on the Cowboys and shut down Ezekiel Elliott and ruined their whole offense, where I thought it was the Dallas Cowboys, where if they were able to do that to Todd Gurley, which has proved to be totally false because Todd Gurley has essentially stunk for the last month. But somehow C.J. Anderson is going to go down, should the Rams win the Super Bowl, as the greatest late-season pickup in the history of professional sports.
Remember it was supposed to be Amari Cooper? Like, that was literally the talk of, is this the best in-season trade of all time?
Yeah.
And
Not
now
so
it's
much.
C.J. freaking Anderson.
And he's probably making $7 this year,
right?
By the way.
12.
It's 12. I
minimum
apologize.
wage in Los Angeles.
$12
After
tax.
tax.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody this segment's brought to you by Fire Wings. Try one of their delicious 21 flavors of wings today or the new Nashville Fire Chicken Sandwich. Find the location nearest you at firewings.com. It's Fire Wings. Just wing it.
The Big Game Dream Party is presented by Melwrapped and Honda. It's your chance to win a 65-inch television, $2,500 in Lazy Boy furniture, and a $500 gift card to Sprouts Farmers Market. You can tune in 3 times per day. Your first opportunity to qualify this week is coming up at 8:40, just over 1 hour from now. Make your plans to be with us. It's Damian, Jason, Kyle Hinton here on The Drive. We'll come back. We've got best and worst of the weekend, and we'll get back into your Sacramento Kings. They lose in Brooklyn yesterday. We'll look ahead to the rest of the road trip as well.
Hey, this is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Sacramento Kings fell to the Brooklyn Nets yesterday, 123-94. Brooklyn outscored Sacramento 30-9 in the final 12 minutes. But the Kings are right back at it again tonight in Toronto. Our coverage on Sports 1140 begins with game night at 2:30. Kings Live is at 3:30, and tip-off with the G-Man is set for 4 o'clock. Multiple outlets are reporting that the Rockets have agreed to trade Carmelo Anthony to the Chicago Bulls. That deal is expected to be finalized later today, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. And speaking of the Rockets, they got blown out by the 76ers yesterday, 121-93, but James Harden got his 30 points. He scored 37 to be exact to extend his streak of 30-plus points to 20 games. And in the Martin Luther King Day finale, Klay Thompson tied an NBA record by hitting his first 10 three-pointers. He had 44 points in just 27 minutes as the Warriors cruised to a 131-11 win over the Lakers. It's 7:31. Time to get your tickets for the 7th Annual Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame induction celebration Saturday, January 26th at Thunder Valley Casino Resort. Go to SacSportsHOF.com. Those are your top stories. Now back to The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Time to kick off Folsom Beer Week at Tap Into a Cold One at the Palladio this Saturday. Tickets at tapfolsom.com. This is The Drive, but we are The Lowdown. Damian Barling along with Jason Ross. Of course, you just heard Kyle Madsen. We're so happy to be here with you. Carmichael Dave will be back 1 week from yesterday. He'll be back on Monday, and we will return to our normal time slot at noon also on Monday. You can listen live, of course, on 1140 a.m. here in Northern California. You can listen anywhere in the world on the KHTK app, which you could download in your app store. And, of course, you can watch us live over on KHTK.com. You've done much better over the course of the last few days.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the cameras.
You gave a little people's eyebrow.
Oh, yeah.
Break, right?
I
was nice.
Hamming it up a little bit, getting my J-Ross on for the camera. But at least I did it during the commercial break. Not in the middle of a conversation that's being beamed out to however many millions of people.
We're trying to entertain on the TV.
Well, we're doing our best here. We're doing our best. I had just said to Jason during the commercial break, I feel like this story with Jeff David, the guy who embezzled money from the Sacramento Kings, I feel like this has not gotten enough attention. Dude embezzled like $13 million and bought beachfront property.
Yeah.
Like, one, you got to, okay. Like, all right, you're going to embezzle money, buy a beachfront property. Like, no one's going to notice. Like, hey, how much are we paying this guy? He's buying, beachfront property in Malibu or wherever he got it from. But I feel like this story has not gotten enough attention. And I'm not just talking about locally. I'm talking about nationally.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to end up on like an episode, what is that thing that's American Greed or something like that. And then, wait, that was going on here? Did anybody know? Yeah, right. We did, but nobody really talked about it.
Oh, such a bizarre story. Again, that I don't think
it's a court day today.
Right? Today, which is why I think it, it's popped back up in the Sacramento Bee. Just a story that has, I feel like this deserves a lot more attention. And maybe that's our fault. We're the people who report news. Maybe it's our fault for not discussing this enough.
Well, especially the day that it first came out, I thought, oh my goodness, this is terrible for the organization. Where's this going to go? And then it just kind of
gone.
Yeah. And
I feel like Kings
one guy.
I feel like Kings fans are like, dude, whatever. How does this affect Buddy's contract?
Right.
Like, how does this affect De'Aaron Fox? It doesn't? Oh, okay.
Then we're good.
Send him to court. Let him go through the process. Who cares?
Trust the process.
Nothing's happening to our arena. Nothing's happening to all of our fun Sacramento Kings stuff. So just get this guy out of my face. A couple of things we didn't mention there in the first hour, and we'll get back to the Kings here in just a heartbeat. Also, as we mentioned, we're bringing a number of the things that we like to do on the lowdown from 12 to 3 each and every single day here to the drive. If you're unfamiliar with us, we'd love to have you join us every day at noon. So we've got best and worst of the weekend coming up. Overreaction Monday also coming up 1 hour from now. We'll have your first opportunity to qualify for the big game Dream Party presented by Mel Rapton Honda coming up at 8:40. So make sure you are locked in with us. A couple of things we didn't get to in the first hour. Lonzo Ball out 4 to 6 weeks with an ankle sprain for the Los Angeles Lakers. So a team that's already hurting without Rajon Rondo, a team that's already hurting without LeBron James is now losing their third point guard, Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, and it sounds like Rondo's very close to coming back. Still no word on LeBron, but 4 to 6 weeks. Ball had been playing better. Ball and Kuzma and Ingram really were carrying the team or keeping them competitive on a nightly basis. They're fortunate Rondo's coming back because now you're talking about just how a team functions. LeBron had the ball all the time. Well, then Ball did, or Rondo. Now you're asking Ingram or Hart or just different guys that normally don't kind of facilitate the offense. It makes it more difficult just to even function, but they're going to hit some tough times here.
I believe they have a game coming up on February 2nd against the Warriors. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the one they're kind of circling for a return for one or both of those guys.
I'm 100% behind that. There's no way LeBron is missing that game. There's no way he's missing that. That's a Saturday night ABC game, by the way, that Lakers-Warriors game. Speaking of the Lakers, they took on the Golden State Warriors last night. You heard Kyle Matson mention this just a moment ago. Klay Thompson, 44 points. He made 10 of 11 three-point attempts. Those 10 were all in a row. He missed his last one. The Warriors with a 19-point win over the Los Angeles Lakers. Klay's 10 straight made threes were tied for the most in a game in NBA history. This was Klay Thompson's third career 40-point game in fewer than 30 minutes. No other player in the shot clock era has done that more than once.
Did he dribble?
He did. He dribbled, according to Second Spectrum, 48 times. But that wasn't on shots. He dribbled 48 times total in the game. What was the number we had was it the Kings game where it was like 11 dribbles? Or?
No, I think it was the night he scored 60 against the Pacers. I think.
In 29 minutes.
Okay, so he had like the 11 dribbles or something absurd like that. But I feel like we had a Derrick Rose stat to compare it to, and it was like 11 versus like 357 or something absurd.
Just pounding the air out of the ball.
It was just something absurd like that. But a couple of more notes. Klay Thompson does not do it the James Harden way. Klay Thompson's 44 points, 0 free throw attempts.
That's outrageous.
0. As in none. As in he didn't go to the free throw line.
That's outrageous. I mean, it makes sense because he shoots a lot of threes. I think he took 20 shots. 11 of them were threes.
Right.
But he gets inside a lot too, but they're all on – hey, now. They got
to work through it, buddy. You just got to keep talking
that's
to
fine.
it.
That's fine. But a lot of what he does is back cuts and leaking out off a miss and getting open layups. So not that surprising that he didn't shoot any free throws.
He had the 4 dunks the other day.
He did. Yeah. He went from one extreme to the other.
Actually raised the roof. I enjoyed that.
How old is that?
I don't know, but he did it. It was
great.
great.
Do you still raise the roof?
That's how I get up. Let everybody know here I am.
No,
that's how you let Mrs. Ross and the J-Man know you're up. You get up and you raise the roof. Uh-huh. Does Mrs. Ross tell you to knock it off?
What was he pushing this?
Push the floor down.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's different.
Yeah, he is.
He's got a black shoe and a white shoe.
Yeah.
Remember, like this is
he does that on the road.
Yeah.
He pushes down at home. He races.
That's nice. Yep. And Nike sells it for a total of $400.
Yes.
As you know well.
Yeah.
I hate you both. Just for the record.
The thing that's crazy about Klay is he's the only player in NBA history to score 40-plus points in 27 minutes or fewer, and he's done it twice. And that's just a testament to how hot he gets. And I don't think there's ever been any player who catches fire the way he does.
He's done it 3 times.
Are you talking about the Pacers game?
Well, it's his third career 40-point game in fewer than 30 minutes.
I said 27.
Fewer than 27 minutes.
Yeah.
So you had to run
real
by
specific.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Very specific.
What a jerk. There's a simple formula for the Warriors to go 82-0, and that's just allow Klay Thompson to score 40 points, because when he does, the Warriors, all time, 13 and never lost.
Never lost.
They're like, Clay had 68. How did you guys lose? Because we only had 68. We were just feeding him the ball all night.
The Warriors also win big. Unlike James Harden, when he scores all those points, Klay Thompson's 40-plus points, 13-0, average margin of victory, 19.5 points per game. So quite the outing from Klay Thompson in a Martin Luther King Day slate of basketball games that lacked drama and excitement. The weekend were a lot of drama and excitement, but not much coming from the MLK games, including your Sacramento Kings, who lost to the Brooklyn Nets yesterday. Brooklyn Nets playing very well. If that was your first time watching them in a while, don't put too much heat on the Sacramento Kings. There's plenty to pick apart with the Sacramento Kings, but the Brooklyn Nets are playing really, really well. They beat the Kings last night, 123-94. Kings now 1-2, halfway through this 6-game road trip.
Yeah, and hopefully, I don't know if tonight's the night to get right because they're playing Toronto, but I'm just thankful that they won against Detroit. Otherwise, this would be a bad patch of games for the team right now.
You mentioned you were concerned about rest headed into tonight's game. What gave you the feeling that we might not see some guys tonight?
Well, actually, I'll give credit to Deuce, Dave Deuce Mason. We were in here. He's like, I've got this feeling that there could be some rest. It just kind of fits the MO of what the Kings last couple times they've been on longer trips, maybe in a pocket of the schedule where they, have played a bunch of games and then have some time off. I think the argument could be, hey, they've got 3 days off in between. But at this point, I just feel like Shumpert hasn't sat in a while. I thought some of the guys looked tired. Just a hunch. I don't know for certain, but it's been a while since Shumpert sat out a game, and he's changed the second half starting lineup. Just haven't looked right offensively. I don't know if he feels like tonight needs a night to rest and then get going for the final 2 games of the trip, which you could argue maybe are more important because it's back against the West. Memphis, just try to keep them down, and then the Clippers, a team you're trying to catch and get a win against. Maybe that's the argument, though. You know how I feel. I'm not a fan of players resting.
Unlike the first and second, I'm glad you brought. That's a great point to bring up, Jason, because unlike the first and second time that the Kings played Memphis, losing to them now is a bad loss.
Yes, correct.
It wasn't the second time when they lost to them in Memphis.
Yeah.
It would be now because of where the Grizzlies are.
They're falling apart.
And where they've been for, we're going on almost 2 months now.
Yeah.
That they got off to their nice little start. And, Jaren Jackson, all of it, look, okay, things are clicking with them. To where they are now, where they're just in a bad place.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you're right. I think that's a team where early on you have an opinion of it's changed. It's changed completely. They're not the same. It's like, is this the year Conley finally makes an all-star game? Gasol, these guys. Well, now they're talking about moving Gasol. They've already made some trades. They've had some injuries. We've heard of the 2 most unthinkable guys to get in a locker room altercation. Temple and Caspi got into one. Yeah. They're not right, and you just need to get out of there with a win.
Best and worst of the weekend coming up here in just a few moments. You want to jump in here, be a part of the conversation. Number of ways you could do it. You could search out The Lowdown on Facebook. Many people interacting with our Facebook question of the day. Was it a good or bad weekend for the NFL? You can get us on the Jiffy Lube text line here at 441140 or on the Fire Wings hotline. Try one of the delicious 21 flavors of wings today. Fire Wings, just wing it, 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140. Good morning, Jerry.
Yes.
What's going on, man?
Hey, as far as the NFL goes, it was a good weekend because the Cowboys weren't playing.
There you go. Okay. All right. There you go.
But you know what? Good teams do not get beat by one play. Granted, plays at the end of the game a little bit more important, but the fact is you don't get beat by one play. Good teams take advantages of opportunities along the way, and that's it. You can't blame a game on a bad call.
Fair enough.
A good team, yeah.
Fair enough.
That's what I got, you guys.
Appreciate it, man. Have a great rest of your day, Jerry. We appreciate hearing from you again. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140.
So the Chiefs and Saints are bad. That's what we learned from Jerry?
Well, no,
I thought he said good teams don't
I think
lose on one play.
Yeah, I understand the point that he's trying to make. I just think the issue is what we're trying to do when highlighting or low lighting or whatever you want to call this, the officiating, isn't that, well, bad officiating costs the Saints the game.
Right.
Aunt Leah feels that way. And if you listen to the Lowdown every day, you get the Aunt Leah reference. New Orleans feels that way.
Sure.
Kansas City feels that way. Andy Reid won't publicly say he feels that way. I'm going to guess that he does. But we're not saying that. We're saying officiating as a whole marred this weekend's games.
Right.
For me, it did.
I'm with you.
When that Patriots game ended, partly because the Patriots won, but when that game ended, I was deflated.
Mm-hmm.
I was how about that? As a matter of fact, good night, everybody. We will see you.
That's good. Jason's out of here.
Yeah, Jason. All right. Jason's now got the eye of the camera. Thank you. If you want to watch Jason's antics, you can, KHTK.com. You know what the problem with your behavior is with KHTK.com is I can see the monitor behind Kyle. So in about 15 seconds, I'm going to see what you just did, and I'm going to start laughing.
It's really funny.
When
It's
you were
really
raising
good.
the roof, I was looking at Kyle and had to turn away because it made me laugh.
Well, now I can watch it.
The point I was trying to make was I was deflated because I just felt like the officiating ruined.
Yeah.
I thought it ruined the weekend. I hated the Patriots won. I did want the Chiefs to win. I did want the Saints to win. I was much more okay with the Rams versus the Chiefs. But now my MVP's didn't even get on the field.
No.
And correct me if I'm wrong, real quick before you jump in. The overtime rule changed. Wasn't it after a Brett Favre NFC Championship game where he didn't touch the ball? I feel like it was after that game that the current structure of the overtime was put into effect, and I wonder if now we're going to see another change because the guy who's going to win the MVP, there would be a certain change if it was Tom Brady. Like, imagine it going the other way.
Yeah.
Patrick
And people
Mahomes
going,
gets
Tom
the
Brady
ball.
didn't get on the field?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Imagine that. Damian Woody's like, oh, those are the rules. Those are the rules. Player, if the roles were reversed, all those former Patriots who got jobs up there in Bristol, Connecticut would be screaming, how do you not let Tom Brady on the field? How do you not let Tom Brady on the field? They've got to amend this rule. But it was the young kid who didn't get the, hey, man, don't know what to tell you.
No.
Those are the rules. Old Wiley, Tom Brady got him down the field. Old Bill Belichick outsmarted everybody.
This is an easy fix. I know some people are talking about, can they review penalties? Like, that's a conversation people are talking about. Right now, they need to talk about the overtime rules. That's something that is so easy to fix. Now, they got to figure out how they want to do it.
Each team gets an opportunity. Why is that a big deal?
But go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I love the college overtime rules. I think, okay, so kickers can kick farther. Put the ball at the 40, put the ball at the 35, put it in some way, each team gets a possession where people love offense. The new day of the NFL, you might keep getting overtime and overtime and over. That's okay. Mm-hmm. That's okay. It's limited number of possessions. Each team gets a fair shake at having the football and go from there.
I think it was Nate Silver proposed the idea of doing that. Start it at the 25, but make it touchdown or nothing.
Okay.
Like, you don't get to kick field goals. After the first touchdown, it's point after, but in second overtime and after, you have to try for two.
Okay.
And there's no field goals in overtime.
Gotcha.
So you just
That's fine.
go
Something.
score touchdowns, and I was with that. I want to get back to what Jerry said about don't let the refs decide the game. There was a point at the beginning of the game where the Saints went down. They settled for a field goal on their first drive. They get an interception. They settle for another field goal.
That was where they lost. Not lost, but that
right.
was big.
And then they scored another touchdown later. They could have been up 21-0, and that game is over at that point.
Yeah.
Well, let's
even
not,
if it's 17, it's over.
I mean, they were, what was it, 13-0?
But
They were up by?
I'm just to Jerry's point of don't let the refs decide the game. Like, this didn't come down to that one play in the fourth quarter. However, that's a terrible call. Like, you got to get the call right. Both things are equally true.
Fair enough. Let's not undermine too much what the Los Angeles Rams did, particularly in the fourth quarter and overtime. And we'll point to Drew Brees set an NFL record. Jason, if I remember correctly, this season Drew Brees set an NFL record for completion percentage in the season. He was 22 of 29 through the first three quarters on Sunday. Two touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The fourth quarter and overtime, he was 4 of 11. Mm-hmm. So, again, Drew Brees sets an NFL record for completion percentage, holds that record through the first three quarters, and then the fourth quarter and overtime come around, and he's 4 of 11.
Yeah.
Now, you can call that a Drew Brees problem, or you can call that the Los Angeles Rams defense stepped up and played for the first time that game since really probably for the first time since they played the Cowboys.
Well, and his worst throw of the day for me was on that drive with the non-pass interference call. That first down, they ran a pass play that was effectively an extended running play where it was just a little quick hitter to the receiver in the middle of the field, and Brees just buried it at his feet.
Yeah.
And if they complete that, the Rams don't have the time to go down and get in field goal range. And that's like you said, Damian, I don't know what the heck was wrong with Drew Brees, but he missed on a couple of throws, and that one in particular before the pass interference was really brutal because that would have decided the game if he completes that.
Plus, we also, I mean, again, now you start to play the game out. We all think it was a penalty, okay? So how does the next part go? I know the Saints talked about basically just centering the football and expiring the time and kicking with a few seconds left. Really good chance they make the kick. Mm-hmm. Stranger things have happened, right? I mean,
really
he probably
good chance
does.
They run the ball in and score a touchdown.
Maybe they let him, and then who knows? I mean, we just don't know how it would go, but it was a missed call.
I did wonder for a second if the Patriots at the end of
let the Chiefs score.
Yeah. Now, this is a team that we saw intercept the ball on the goal line, so maybe not. But I watched that play like, oh, okay. I don't think that they did, but I would need Bill Belichick in a moment without any cameras and truth serum to tell me if they let them score.
Yeah,
because that was my first thought is maybe they're going to let them walk in here. And that's exactly what they did, and we saw how it went.
Was there anyone on the planet that when the Patriots got the ball back with 2 minutes and 3 seconds left that didn't think there was going to be a touchdown scored?
No one.
Because I feel like that was just the prevailing.
He did throw an interception.
True.
Which is.
Was it D4 that was offsides?
Yeah. That was tough.
And, I guess there's a conversation there that D4 talked about yesterday. I'm not the player that's going to get the warning, and I can't rely on officials to get warnings. And we had read and heard and have seen this. And this year is the first time I had really noticed this brought to the forefront is that officials will tell players, hey, you're lined up. You're lined up in the wrong spot. If you stay there, like I have to throw the flag. Mm-hmm. And D Ford was like, I'm not the player who's going to get that warning. It's my fault. That's where I was. Flag was thrown, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Brutal. But it is a 37-34 win. And again, the question on Facebook is, was it a good weekend or a bad weekend? For the NFL. Speaking of good and bad, we'll have our best and worst of the weekend coming up at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Also in the 8 o'clock hour, we got Overreaction Monday coming your way.
On a Tuesday, and I like that.
Yeah, why not? I mean, Monday is your first day back to work unless it's Friday. If for some reason, and I can't figure out a scenario where this would be real life, but if for some reason you're off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you come back to work, it's Friday. Any other day, it's Monday. Even if it's Thursday, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You come back to work on Thursday, it's Monday, and then it's Friday.
You thought a lot about this.
I have.
Did you think about this?
Because everybody follow that?
No.
Yeah, I did. Your first day back to work, no matter what, is Monday.
Mm-hmm. Unless it's Friday.
Unless it's Friday, then it's still Friday. Even if it's Thursday, then it's Monday, but the next day is Friday.
But who has that other schedule?
The Friday is a Friday, but it's a Monday?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Okay.
Like, who would do that?
The weirdo that doesn't just take a vacation day on that Friday and have the long extended weekend.
Yeah, like, who would do that?
Like, dude,
it doesn't make sense.
You have enough. You got vacation. Just
like, I've been sick all week, but I'm going to come back on Friday.
Yeah.
It's like, no, dude, I'll see you Monday.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, Monday is a holiday, then I'll see you Tuesday.
But it's still Monday.
Which will be like a Monday because we got to get our overreactions in.
I think you were worried that you were going to keep saying Monday instead of Tuesday, so this is the explanation you came up with.
What?
You thought long and hard about this last night.
What?
No, I actually thought long and hard about the quality shoes that LeBron had on, where the white shoe was right and the left shoe was black. Unless you bought the away pair, then the left shoe was white and the right shoe was black.
Right.
Luckily, that doesn't matter for those of you, Damien, who ordered both pairs.
That's right.
If you know somebody.
If you know someone who ordered both pairs,
right,
they now have a white shoe on the right foot and a white shoe on the left foot.
If they choose.
If you're into that sort of thing.
Yes.
If you're into having two shoes that are the same color, then you had to order both pairs.
Yeah.
Which would have come to a grand total of $400.36.
Sounds very specific. I don't know how you would know that number.
You don't have to handcuff the specific shoes together unless you're into that sort of thing.
Nicely done, Kyle. Nicely done. The Big Game Dream Party is presented by Mel Rapton Honda. We've got your opportunity to win coming up in our final hour here. Plus, we've got our best and worst of the weekend. Much more football to talk about. Much more to talk about regarding your Sacramento Kings and said overreaction Monday or Tuesday, depending on how you look at your week.